Hello and good morning, all of you. This is Vishakha Bhave from Exxat. I'm the VP of Product Innovation, and I'm extending a warm welcome to all our attendees today in the Fireside Chat series. Today's webinar is the first in the series, and it's going to focus on student management topics in Prism. Joining me for the next hour are two product managers, Lakshmikant and Kanti. They're going to be co-presenters for today's topics. A little bit of context and housekeeping announcements before we get started. The whole context of this Fireside Chat series is to provide an opportunity to our product team to directly connect with you, our clients, and provide an opportunity to evolve this product in partnership. Your feedback is very important, and some of the pain points that you're facing related to these topics are understood, and we want to involve you and engage you in evolving this product so we can cater to all your increasing needs and all the user journeys and use cases that you experience. So that's the whole purpose. The format that we're going to follow is it'll be a combination of presentation by our team members, followed by a discussion. And what we would encourage you to do is put in your comments and questions in the questions box, and we'll be monitoring those. We'll take frequent breaks to address those. When we come to the discussion portion of these webinars, we will also unmute you. So feel free to raise your hand and we'll unmute you one by one, and then you can express or give your feedback. We may also administer a couple of questions as polls within the webinar to collect more objective data on how you're using the feature, and that will help us improve the product as well. So that is going to be the general format. We have the whole series where different topics will be picked. These topics are picked based on our understanding of how our users are using these features, some of the pain points that have already been expressed. And then there are some topics where we want to collect the feedback because we are thinking of evolving the product in a certain way, and we would like to have your thoughts and your feedback on how it would work for you. All right, so then with those housekeeping announcements, let's get started. Kanti and Lakshmikant, if you can confirm if the audio is clear and you're able to hear as well.
Yes, Vishakha, you're audible, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you for that confirmation. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Kanti, who is our first presenter. Kanti, go ahead and start sharing your screen.
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen. I hope it is visible to everyone.
Yes, it is.
Okay, and are we good to get started?
Yes, please.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Vishakha. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Fireside Chat series Student Management webinar. My name is Kanti, and I work as a product manager with Exxat here. So today, as part of student management section, we are going to cover three tricky topics that we thought of, which would be student addresses, changing a student cohort, and clinical questionnaire. So I will be covering student addresses and changing student cohort, and Lakshmikant will cover clinical questionnaire part. Okay, so let's start with the student addresses. So I'm going to talk about how we are currently capturing the student addresses, and I'm also going to want to discuss with you how, as a school, you would want to collect any additional student addresses. Okay, so today with Prism, we are collecting the current and permanent addresses of the students as part of the student profile. Okay, so I also have a screenshot for you. So this is how it would look when you go into the profile tab of the student. There is an address information section, and here the student can click on that pencil and enter the current and the permanent address. So this is what we are currently collecting. Okay, now how are we using this information we are collecting? We are especially using the current address of the student to calculate the distance from the sites when you are making placement using the placement by location section. Now this is how that would look like. So when you go into the placement section, you pick a location and you start like looking at the students to place at the site. If the students have entered the current address, the system calculates the distance from the student address to the location, and it shows up under the distance column here like this. So you can use this information to make your placements. Now, in V3, we also had a few schools collect additional addresses from the students as part of the profile. Okay, now this is how it used to look like in our older version, where students would put more like multiple addresses, and they used to select for which rotation they would want to go there. However, this form in V3 used to be housed under the profile section of the student. And with that, it used to be invariantly got shared with the sites, because as part of the profile, the schools or the students can share the profile information with their sites or their preceptors. And since this form is housed under the profile, it got shared with the sites, which is not needed. Okay, so we want to keep the profile section very clean and just capture what is needed, like a resume. Okay, so with that, what we are recommending, if schools would want to collect additional addresses from the students and use it as part of their placement planning process, our recommendation is to have the wish list section to use for that purpose. Okay, now under wish list section, we thought of two approaches, and I also want to open it a little later to discuss this with you, how you can help us. But our two approaches to collect the student addresses information is: one, using the my request feature. Now my request is nothing but a form that we can configure, and you students can use that to put in the information that you are looking for. And this form can be configured based on program to program. So you can come up with your own list of questions you want to ask the student. Our second approach, what we are thinking is, we can also work with you to give an additional type of a wish list, which will let students add their address information, and you can use that wish list to collect the information and use it for your placement planning purposes. So that a high level, these are the two approaches that we thought of. Now I just want to open it up for more discussion with the audience. So for that, first I just want to know from the audience, how many of you are actually going to collect this additional student addresses and use it for your placement planning purposes.
All right, so I'm going to, Kanti, go ahead and administer the poll. You should all be able to see a question for you to answer. Go ahead and provide your answer for that. We'll give it a few more seconds. And I think everyone has responded. So I'm going to close the poll and share the results. So we have 15% of our audience saying that they do collect additional student addresses, and 85% are good with the two options that we have today, which is current and permanent. All right, so that's the result that we have received. It's going to be useful for us. So thank you for that. And Kanti, if you want to go ahead and continue with your
Yes.
presentation.
Yeah, and if I want to also see raise of hands of the people who said yes, if if they are willing to work with us, um, to see how we can develop this section, because it is now clear that profile is not a good place to house this information. So our recommendation is to use the student addresses now. Like whoever said yes, I just want to see if they will be willing to collaborate with us to take this feature forward.
Kanti, do you want them to raise their hands or type in so we can contact them offline later and follow up with?
Yeah, they can put their information in the chat with their name and email so we can reach out to them offline,
Okay.
and then start the conversation with them.
There is a comment here, third option that actually Aarti, our CEO, has suggested, that is to collect additional addresses at the end of any regular wish list. All right, so then let's actually look at if there are hands raised. So I'm going to give them an opportunity to speak up. I see Ashley has raised her hand. Ashley, I'm going to unmute you. Please go ahead and express your feedback or comments. Go ahead, Ashley. Ashley, are you able to speak? I have unmuted you from my side. I don't think we can hear you, Ashley, just in case you're talking. And then let's see. Okay, anyone else? Maybe we can try again with Ashley in a few minutes. I don't know if it's an issue with her audio. Okay. Anyone else from the 15% who said that they do use additional addresses, do you want to talk about how you use them or in what way are those addresses being used for, either for placement purposes or for collecting slots? I am not seeing any raised hands. I'm also seeing if there are any. Okay, I see a message from Ashley, so I'm going to read it out. We use regions and ask about additional housing at the end of the survey for the students to preference their selective choices. Okay, and end of the survey, Ashley, is in the wish list survey, is what you asked them about, or in the profile survey? Yes, wish list. Okay, thank you, Ashley, for that. And I'm sorry, I don't know why you're not able to, why the audio is not working for you. I see that you're unmuted from my end. Okay, so Kanti, are there any follow-up questions that you want to talk about related to this topic?
No, we just want to put this information there that what Exxat's recommendation is if schools would like to collect it, but maybe in our next session we can discuss more about it. For
Sure.
now, it's more of an introductory topic. I want to put there what are what is our Exxat's approach towards this.
Got it. And so if you think about this and if you want to provide that feedback to us in either in the questions box or email it to any one of us, that would be great. A, how are you using those additional addresses? in your system. And what are all the different ways? If they are using V3, how are you using it? In Prism, if you are using it, what are some workarounds that you're using? Any of that. That would be helpful as we plan on our product design to see how we can accommodate those use cases that you share with us. So thank you for that. One last check if I see any other raised hands or comments on this topic. Otherwise, we can move on with our next topic. So I am not seeing any additional. We have a meeting tomorrow to discuss. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's keep moving.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. So the second topic that we are going to discuss for today is changing a student's cohort. Okay. When we started with Exxat in V3, we mostly came up with use cases based out of the what how PT program works, PA program, OT programs, which are all lockstep programs. So we built the system for them. And in V3, if you see, since these are all lockstep programs, there is a very tight coupling with cohort for anything that you do with placement process. Like, if you want to do create a session or do a placement, it is very tightly coupled with the cohort. Now, as we started working with nursing programs, other programs which are not a lockstep program, they were finding it very difficult, to do their placement process because of the tight coupling with the cohort. So when we have developed Prism, we have already taken care of these dependencies. And today, if you use Prism and if you want to do the registration placements, you can do that without any dependency on the student's cohort. You can go ahead and register the student from different cohorts to a course, and you can place them. There is no dependency on opening up the learning activities as well. Okay, so the only dependency that today in Prism we see that is based on cohort is when you want to do any important announcements for a cohort, or when you want to share student level resources like handbooks, etc., or you want to just put an attestation. So those are the type of things that are based on cohort and compliance requirements. So whenever you are setting up a compliance requirements, that is based on cohort today. And we are already thinking of like how we can remove the dependency on for compliance, and this is coming out pretty soon. So you will not see any dependency on compliance as well. You will be able to if you have to do it, you can always change the student cohort. Okay, but for making your placements, there is no dependency on cohort today. So on this topic today, what we would like to understand is what are the other use cases, okay, that you think that there is a need for you to change the cohort of the student. Okay, what Exxat is recommending is when you are enrolling students, you can group them and create an admitting cohort. Okay, so you can refer to that as your admitting cohort. And we also have additional attributes like enrollment year, graduation year that you can use, and you can change if the student is went for leave of absence, or they have now have to rejoin back, and you have to update their graduation year. You can just change their graduation term and leave the cohort as is. So that's what we are thinking. We did, however, got one feedback from one of the programs is when we share the profile information of the student to the sites or to the preceptors, we have the cohort of the student as part of the profile. So they called out that it might be confusing if that cohort is like an older cohort, and they might get confused, like, who is the student coming to them. So what we are thinking is, as part of the profile that is getting shared with the sites, we can also include enrollment term and graduation term of the student, so the sites and the preceptors clearly know who is that student coming to them. Apart from that, we are not seeing any other use cases that might need to change the cohort of the student. Today, what we want to know from this group is, are there any other use cases that Exxat did not come across, and there is actually a need for you to change the students cohort. So that's what I want to collect from you all on this topic today. So again, I'll just quickly recap. Uh, for the changing students cohort with Prism, there is actually no dependency when you are registering the student from to a course, or when you are making a placement. There is no dependency. The student can stay in the cohort that you have created and you added the student. So for placement planning purpose, you don't need to do that. In V3, you might have to, like, add the student as a flex or change the student, so they can start showing up on the placement screen. But today we have removed that dependency, and what we are thinking is, with the additional attributes that we have added for the student, like the enrollment term, graduation term, student category, there is actually no need for schools to change the cohort name. So the question for you all is, what are the other use cases that we might have missed, and there is actually a need for you to change the student cohort? So that was the question I want to ask the audience today, and see if we can get some information from this group on that.
So again, if you have something to share with us, either a feedback, a comment, please raise your hand. We can unmute you. I see, Ashley, your hand is raised. I don't know if it's related to this or from the previous topics. Okay, I see that it's gone now. Anyone else who wants to speak up and share? There, I see Dane. Okay, Dane, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Are you able to talk?
Yes. Okay. So are you saying that if a student were to, for example, be initially registered in Prism as, let's just say, the cohort name is class of 2024, if they fell out of sequence and joined class of 2025, are you saying that there's not a way that we would be able to change the cohort name to reflect what class they're now in?
So what we are saying, Dennis, today you cannot change it. You eventually you will be able to, like, change the cohort, but we want to, like, ask, what is the need for you to change the cohort itself? If the student is falling back and the graduation term is changing for the student, why are you not just changing the graduation term of that student?
Well, because, well, for example, if the cohort name, I guess, shows up in the cohorts are named for the year that they graduate. So we like to keep them accurate with the name of the cohort accurate with the year, not with the year that they came in, but the year that they're actually going to graduate.
Yes,
if that makes sense.
that is correct. Yeah, that is correct. Because a lot of lockstep programs, including, I guess, yours, Dane, names their students cohort by graduation term and not enrollment term. So
Right.
wherever the graduating cohort name is shown when students share their profile or on the system, it is showing the inaccurate graduation term now for them, because cohort is a surrogate for their graduating year, right? That's what you're pointing out, and we are aware of that. That is definitely something that you should be able to change, and we are going to make those enhancements where you'll be able to do it easily. Today also we support that, but it's via a support ticket. That's the only difference that is there. So the reason we are bringing this up for discussion is to collect all the scenarios that you experience, and this being a valid use case or a valid pain point that you are expressing. We are aware of this. So yeah, this is an original and valid scenario.
Yeah, it doesn't happen that often, so a support ticket would be, fine for that. So
Right.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Thank you, Dave, for sharing that and reinforcing this use case and this pain point with us. Let me see if I have anyone else who would like to share. Let me also check out our questions. Yes, so I do see a comment by Kelly. It is a FERPA violation to have them in the system and let a preceptor see what that they decelerated. Okay. All
Okay.
right. So I think, Kelly, your concern is that if we keep showing the inaccurate cohort, and if based on their cohort, if the evaluations are being sent to the preceptor, then that might be the confusion. So Kanti, if you want to clarify this or add on to this concern.
So Vishaka, I think the question or the comment was the cohort, if it is like a older cohort and then that reflects that is telling the student has decelerated, that's a FERPA violation. Did I get that comment correct?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so in that scenario, maybe then yeah, they can change the cohort. I mean, but there won't be like any dependency for the decelerated, like you have to change it. The student can, you can still place the student if they are coming back into as part of the newer cohort, you can still do it. But I think when that information is shared with the site as an older cohort, then that might be the use case. Then we can consider and say that might be another reason for the schools to change the cohort name.
Okay. I also have one more person, Lynn. Lynn, I'm going to unmute you, and if you want to speak up, go ahead, Lynn.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify what we were talking about with changing the cohort, because I remember this past year, if I had a person in an older cohort and then I added them to the new one, I had to have that done on the back end. I mean, I could put them in, but a lot of the stuff didn't hook up with them properly. Is that still the case? Like, I remember certain things didn't, it wasn't the same. Everything wasn't turned on to them. So we, and I can't remember specifically what it was, but I ended up having to put a ticket in to have them looked at.
Okay. The data should be moved. I think I don't know, you said a year ago, but the utility that it is that we are currently using will keep the placement information of the student as is, and when you move them to the newer cohort, it will adjust the compliance requirements as needed for the newer cohort. So
Okay.
yeah, that is how the utility is working today, and soon you will be able to do that from the screen as well. So our team is working towards giving you that you soon, so you will have that available, so you can use it on your own.
Thank you.
And there is a couple of comments related to the previous comment made by Kelly on FERPA violation. Dave is mentioning that I would suggest not having the cohort name appear on the student profile at all. Only have things that can be easily modified in the profile, such as graduation term. So I think that's a good suggestion. We should definitely consider that, because that also helps us with the FERPA issue.
Yeah.
And then I have a couple of more comments. The site view of the student profile, just to clarify. Okay, yeah. That is so that the preceptors don't find out which cohort they belong to originally and now they are decelerated. I guess that's what Dane is trying to get to.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. If it is
Yeah.
not for the to see that, maybe we can decide on showing the graduation enrollment term and not the cohort, because that's more of like a for the school to manage the student information. So yeah, I think we can consider that feedback.
Right. And then there's a comment by Kelly again, didn't know that was an option. Thanks. Okay. All right. So I think those are the comments on this topic. I'm quickly going to check for raised hands once again. Dane, I see that your hand is still raised. Would you like to go ahead and speak? Oh, I see that that was from the previous instance. Okay. All right. So I think those are the comments I have received so far and the questions. So if no other use cases or comments, I think we can keep moving in the interest of time.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, everyone. So those are the two topics I want to cover, and thank you all for your feedback. I will now turn it back to Lakshmikant, and he can cover the next topic. Lakshmikant, over to you. I will
Sure.
be on mute, but you can tell me so I can drive the slides for you. Okay?
Sure. Thank you, Kanti. Can you move to the next slide? Hi, so this is Lakshmikant. I am Senior Product Manager with Exxat. So today I'm going to talk about clinical questionnaire. So this is one of the area like how version v3 and version v4, we also call that as Prism now, handle it, right? So in version v3, we have made it easy for all of you to add any question that you want to add into the profile section and collect the data for it. We had not done our homework at that point of time, and basically what kind of data is being collected there, that was subject to the schools. It was up to the school what they wanted to collect and store that into the profile section. And as we reviewed what information was being collected, the information was falling into two major buckets. The first bucket, those were these certain questions, those were really good to add as the standard profile. So Kanti, if you can go to the next slide again. So we observed that there are certain questions which can be a good candidate for the profile standard profile, and we added that into the profile section. So if you see the screenshot here, we have added certain information like work experience, membership, licensure, skills, and accomplishment, right? So when we develop Prism, we consider all those inputs and then create a standard profile so that it becomes full-fledged data, and you don't have to create separate questionnaire for that. Then there was second bucket of the questions which were good to collect as one-time information for the placement, right? But schools were using this clinical questionnaire section just to say when students are getting ready for the rotation one. They will save that data, and when it is time that students are ready for the rotation 2, they will erase earlier goals and replace that information with the rotation 2 data. So this is not right way to capture the data, right? Profile is one time information, so this is not what what we should be doing. Basically profile will save the data which is useful and one time information, and that can also be shared with the sites. If you want to share the data related to the placement, the right place is the evaluation forms. Considering this feedback, so what we did is when we developed the Prism, we basically divided this information into two places. The first one is the standard profile, and then second one was the evaluation forms. We thought that this will be good enough to capture all the information, and that is serving the purpose. But as we started migrating more and more clients to the Prism, we realized that clients or the schools want to collect additional information, right? And that is the reason we are adding the clinical questionnaire as additional functionality now, that is already into the production, and you can see that working right now. So Kanti, if you can go to the next slide again, this is how you will see the additional profile section. So apart from the profile, right side corner will have the section for the additional profile details. Whatever questions you think that student need to answer, that will be available for the students to provide the responses. Once they fill the details, that will be saved as the additional data just next to your profile. Now let me quickly show how to create the questionnaire. Kanti, if you can go to the next slide again. So in the setup section, there is a additional profile details tab. In the same tab, onto the right side, you will see the button to add the questions. Kanti, again, next slide, please. So when you click onto the add question, you will have options to add the questions. Once you add all your questions, you can select whether you want to share all these questions with all the cohorts or do you want to make it specific for the cohorts. The moment you uncheck shared with all the cohort checkbox there, if you see the step 1, there is a drop down to select the cohorts. Step 2 is, again, you need to mark which questions are mandatory. If you mark something as mandatory, student will have to submit the responses, then and then only they will submit their feedback. Without completing all the mandatory questions, they won't be able to submit the responses. The third step is, again, if you want to add more questions, you can click on add and keep on adding more and more questions. The last step is, again, click onto the save and then you can go back and see like how many questions are added. Can't you switch to the next slide again? So this is how you will see all the list of the questions. You can also check what is mandatory, what is not, and into the action column, you can go ahead and edit the questions or delete that question. Onto the top section, you can add more questions and you can also rearrange the sequence in which those are listed. So this is how admin will see the questionnaire. And again, going to the next slide, this is how the information will be available to the students. Once they submit all that data, it will be saved as part of the student profile. Having said that, I just wanted to recommend that before you go ahead and create the questionnaire, just think what is that information that you want to collect. Is it one-time information that is that can be part of your profile, or is that information which you want to collect at the rotation level? Kanti, can you go to the next slide again? So in terms of recommendation, first check whether that information that you are collecting, is it a good candidate for the profile or is it the rotation level information? Bottom line is extension of the profile level information that is collected as one time is added candidate for the additional details section, which we also call as the clinical questionnaire. Having said that, I just wanted to open this forum for the feedback, and I want to understand from schools what are different scenarios where you want to collect this data. Kanti, again, switch to the next slide, please. So if you can help me understand what are different use cases, what are the extension of the profile that you want to collect, what are the reason for it, and what type of question you think we can put under additional profile details section, that would be really good insight for us. Vishaka, if you can open the forum for the chats, questions.
Sure, I'm monitoring. Please go ahead and raise your hands if you would like to provide your feedback verbally, or I'm also monitoring the comment section to see if anyone is giving us feedback in the comments. Don't see anything yet. And while people are, thinking about this and providing some feedback, Lakshmikant, would you like to tell them about how you're planning to evolve this functionality even further? I know we've launched it as a MVP right now with basic functionality, but do you want to share what enhancements you're planning to make in it? Are there any reports that are going to be available for the administrators' consumption so they can meaningfully use that data to make some placement decisions or any other decisions in their program?
Certainly. So, Vishaka, first of all, we are going to come up with a few additional things. Like when you create the questionnaire, you can actually hide and show these questions to the student. So admin can go ahead and create this questionnaire and still they can select whether that should be visible to the student at this point of time or not. That is the first thing. Second thing is we are planning to see like how we can share this information along with the sites, because this is additional information, right? So admin can decide whether they want to share it with sites or not. But before we come up with that feature, probably schools can tell us whether that is the right solution to go for, or do they have any feedback. Third one is, again, we are going to provide some additional reports based upon the responses from the students. Admin can check how many students have completed their clinical questionnaire, how many mandatory questions are answered, how many are yet to be answered. So they can have all this analysis done for all the students at the cohort level. So these are some of the features in pipeline, Vishaka.
Sure. And there is a question by Sheena. Is this a new feature? Yes, absolutely. We rolled it out last week, so it's very, very new, fresh out of the oven. And as Lakshmikant pointed out, his team is planning to make incremental enhancements to this feature to give you more and more control over this additional student information section. There will also be reports where you can easily, export it to Excel and play around with the results and responses and then use it for your day-to-day decision making in your program. So all of those things will be coming. What he was referring to was the ability to have control over which questions are getting published to the students, or for that matter to the site personnel in the future. I think that would be an important feature, Lakshmikant, because maybe they're still making the questions and not ready to release it to the students yet. For us to be able to give the administrators or faculty that sandbox to play around with the questions until they are ready to give it or share it with the students, I think that would be a valuable enhancements, I would think. And,
absolutely, Vishaka.
Yeah, that was okay. So Sheena had a follow-up question, but I think we answered it, exporting it to Excel. Okay, yeah. So the reports will take care of it. I think the reports will be designed in the next release, so in a few weeks. So that's where we are with this. Any other comments or questions related to this particular feature? I'm not seeing any. With a raise of hands, would you be able to say if this is a feature that you see yourself using for collecting any information from your students? I see Sheena has raised her hand. I see one raised hand, Ashley as well. So 3 so far. Janet Clark, yes. Okay, so at least 3 of our attendees do see using this feature with their students. So great. Feel free to send us your feedback once you've tried out this new feature and any enhancements or additional functionality related to this feature that you would like to see. I'm quickly also going to share the comments. It is a maybe from us. Dane says that they may use it. Okay, good to know. All right. So those were the topics, I think. Lakshmikant, do you have any more questions or discussion points around this topic?
No, Vishaka, I'm good from my side.
All right. Well, giving a few more seconds to see if any of our audience want to share anything else, either in the comment section, question section, or by raising their hands. If not, I think this was great. We do request you that there is a survey that we'll be sending out right after this. If you could take a minute and answer those questions, it will help us curate the forthcoming sessions that we have planned. It'll also ask you about any other topics that you would like to discuss with us and provide your feedback. And also, anytime in the future, if you are using a particular topic that we are discussing and you would like to provide us feedback and partner with us in evolving that feature in the product, please put in your name and email address and the program that you belong to in the chat box, and our team will reach out to you for a focused discussion on that topic. As always, your feedback, your experiences that you share with us are extremely important for us to evolve our product in the right direction. And because we cater to multiple disciplines, the more scenarios that we become familiar with, the more we are able to cater to them and kind of build that into our product. So thank you all so much in taking this time to participate in this discussion and in this fireside chat on student topics. Please do register for all our next topics that are lined up. They're already, some of the topics are already published and open for registration. So check them out. And if it's something that interests you, please do attend those. If nothing else, Kanti, Lakshmikant, anything from your side, or are we good on closing this session then?
I'm good from my end, Vishaka, for today. And thank you everyone for your valuable feedback. I also have the next session on my screen here. So if you're interested, our next session is on April 6th, and we are going to talk about sites, locations, personnel, and contract management at the same time on April 6th.
Thank you, Kanti. We do also have a parallel series that is ongoing. It's going to start also next week, the first session, which is discipline-focused webinars. So we are taking up some of our disciplines, and actually through this webinar series, we are going to showcase some functionality that is specific to that particular discipline. So look up our website for that series, and if interested, do register for that as well. And with that, again, thank you all for taking the time, and have a good day.
Thank you all. Good day.
Thank you.